A massive 7.7 magnitude earthquake has struck off the coast of Flores, Indonesia, triggering a tsunami warning and sending hundreds of thousands of people running for safety before sunrise. At 58 Mian. The rupture hit just 42 miles north-northwest of Ende, and only about 6 miles beneath the surface, shallow enough to produce extremely violent shaking. More than 500,000 people on Flores were exposed to very strong ground motion. Homes were damaged, deaths were reported, and powerful aftershocks began hammering the region within minutes. Then came the warning coastal communities feared most. Get away from the shoreline and move to higher ground immediately. And there was a terrifying reason people took it seriously. A major earthquake near this same region once triggered a devastating tsunami that killed thousands. I'll show you exactly what happened, why this earthquake became so dangerous, and the hidden threat that remained even after the tsunami warning was lifted. The magnitude 7.7 earthquake began beneath the Flores Sea, where enormous tectonic pressure was released along an underwater fault. The rupture occurred at a shallow depth of roughly 6 miles, allowing powerful seismic energy to reach the surface with less distance to weaken. Seismologists identified reverse faulting, where intense compression forces one section of Earth's crust upward against another. For you on the surface, that geology translates into one thing: stronger, more dangerous shaking close to populated areas. Magnitude tells us how much energy an earthquake releases, but depth and location determine how violently communities may experience it. Across Flores, those conditions were especially dangerous. That violent energy quickly reached communities across Flores. More than 500,000 people on the island were estimated to experience very strong shaking, while some estimates suggested up to 1.5 million people across the wider region felt strong to very strong ground motion. Millions more across eastern Indonesia reported moderate shaking. Imagine being inside your home before sunrise, when the floor suddenly moves, windows rattle, walls shake, and you have only seconds to react. Your instinct is simple: get outside and away from anything that could collapse. As families rushed into open spaces, the shaking began to fade, but the first reports of serious damage were already emerging. As the shaking eased, the first human cost began to emerge. Initial reports confirmed deaths near the affected coastal area, with at least one person injured. Homes and structures near port facilities were severely cracked or collapsed, while remote communities remained difficult to assess. For families escaping damaged buildings, safety was still uncertain. Within minutes, attention suddenly shifted toward the sea. Then came the warning everyone along the coast feared: a possible tsunami. Indonesian authorities issued alerts across several regions, urging coastal residents to move immediately away from the shoreline. Families headed inland or toward higher ground, while monitoring stations watched for dangerous changes in sea level. For you, surviving the earthquake would suddenly become only the first challenge. Now you would have to decide how quickly and how far to evacuate. And Flores had a terrifying reason to take that warning seriously. Before anyone knew whether the ocean would respond, the ground began shaking again. The magnitude 7.7 main shock had ended, but Flores was still moving. Within roughly 30 to 40 minutes, powerful aftershocks of 5.9, 5.6, 6.1, and 5.5 struck the region. Each new jolt threatened structures already weakened by the first earthquake. For families waiting on higher ground, the danger felt relentless, and the repeated shaking was now destabilizing something even larger: the steep volcanic slopes surrounding their communities. The danger was now moving into the mountains. Flores' steep volcanic slopes could become unstable under repeated violent shaking, increasing the risk of landslides that could block roads and isolate remote communities. For rescue teams, every blocked route meant slower access to injured residents. But the deepest fear still came from the sea, and from what Flores remembered about 1992. Flores had every reason to fear what might come next. In December 1992, a magnitude 7.8 earthquake struck near this same region and generated a devastating tsunami. More than 2,500 people were killed, while tens of thousands of homes were destroyed. For families evacuating the coast now, that history was impossible to ignore. They knew exactly what the ocean had done here before, and beneath Indonesia, the tectonic forces capable of producing disasters like this remain constantly active. Indonesia sits on the Pacific Ring of Fire, where multiple tectonic plates collide and build enormous pressure beneath the islands. When that pressure breaks underwater, powerful earthquakes and sometimes tsunamis can follow. That geological reality now shaped every rescue decision across Flores. Rescue teams moved toward the hardest-hit communities, searching damaged structures and assessing blocked roads. But landslides and limited communication slowed access to remote areas. Then another critical problem emerged. Even local hospitals had been damaged. The disaster was now affecting the very facilities people depended on for survival. At a local hospital, damage forced staff to move patients and medical equipment outside as a precaution against further aftershocks. Temporary treatment areas were established so care could continue. And as rescue teams reached more communities, the confirmed human toll began to rise. As information finally arrived from harder-to-reach communities, the confirmed death toll rose to 5. Later reports recorded 2 deaths in Sika and 3 in Manggarai, while damaged roads and landslides continued complicating assessments. The numbers were becoming clearer, but offshore, monitoring stations were finally answering the question that had terrified Flores since the first warning. Was a tsunami actually coming? Then came the relief coastal families had been waiting for. Monitoring stations detected no significant sea level changes capable of threatening communities, and Indonesian authorities lifted the tsunami warning. The nightmare of 1992 would not repeat itself this time. But while the ocean was growing quieter, the emergency on land was becoming clearer. Damaged roads, unstable slopes, and isolated communities still stood between rescuers and those who needed help. With the tsunami threat fading, attention shifted inland. Landslides and damaged roads left some communities difficult to reach, forcing rescue teams to push through unstable terrain while assessing casualties and structural damage. For isolated families, every blocked route could delay medical care and emergency supplies. And the uncertainty extended beyond residents. Flores' major tourist areas were also being warned to remain alert. Across Flores, the warning extended beyond local communities. Authorities in major tourist areas urged visitors, including foreign travelers, to remain alert, follow official safety instructions, and stay away from damaged structures and unstable areas. Even with the tsunami warning lifted, the crisis was not over. Powerful aftershocks, weakened buildings, and landslide-prone slopes could still turn recovery into another emergency. The tsunami warning was over, but Flores was not yet safe. Strong aftershocks could continue for days or even weeks, threatening buildings already weakened by the magnitude 7.7 earthquake. Unstable slopes also remained vulnerable to further landslides, potentially blocking roads and isolating communities again. Rescue teams and authorities continued assessing damage while residents were urged to remain vigilant. The main shock lasted only moments, but its consequences could shape life across Flores far longer. Flores survived the immediate tsunami threat, but the magnitude 7.7 earthquake left a much longer emergency behind. Damaged homes, blocked roads, landslides, powerful aftershocks, and grieving families now define the difficult road toward recovery. Rescue teams continue their work as communities remain alert. The shaking may have stopped for now, but for the people of Flores, the impact is far from over.